Yeah, we're still in that mode of practicing. We're obviously into game plan mode right now. We got into scouts today, so that was different. And you can see a little bit of just the practice changes when you have scouts out there. You're transitioning. When you have school practice, you have to get your stuff in after practice. Then you got to go get prepared for class the next day. The nice thing is we have a week to do that before we actually go play, because you can feel that intensity out there by everybody. Probably a little nerves too, just into class, into preparing, and this week is a good week for us to be able just to get all those little glitches and bugs all figured out before we go out there next week and really truly prepare for the game.
You announced 4 captains today. Just
Yeah.
your thoughts on those guys? And
Yeah, we kind of changed up our format than we did last year, and really felt like we wanted to have 4 permanent guys, and felt like that was the best thing for this team. Felt like we had some strong leaders, and the team voted on that, picked the 4 captains, and those guys are going to work well together. They've done a great job of leading throughout camp. I think they're great representatives for the program, and everybody seemed to be excited about those guys being our captains. Now it's their opportunity to go out there and lead and take charge in that role, and I think those guys will.
What did you feel like 4 was the right option this year? And other than we see them go out there for the coin toss, but I mean, what else do they do?
Well, we had 2 last year, and I just think it's strength in numbers. You had 2 last year, and then you had 2 honorary captains, and those guys that were honorary had worked hard, but hadn't been there the entire time leading throughout the week, and certainly earned it from their playing time. Now you're talking about guys that have to not only be leaders on your team playing on the field, but also every day, from Sunday on to the next game. And that's just not on the football field. That's taking care of your team and making sure guys are doing things right. So we felt like those guys when I say the team felt those guys were the right leaders, but strength in numbers is why we chose 4.
It's pretty rare that a true sophomore assumes the role of the captain.
Yeah.
What does it say how the guys and the coaching staff obviously view Brett Rypien?
Yeah, I think it says a lot, and I think Brett's worked really hard at that role of being a leader. And we did some things in the summer where a group came in here, talked about leadership, and I think that's been a big topic for this football team. And certainly Brett's a guy in that position of quarterback. Not always your quarterbacks are your best leaders. He's certainly one of them, and he's embraced that role and has done a good job with it, and I think he'll continue to do that.
So what do you want out of your captains? I mean, there's some things that you talk about off the field that you expect them to do.
Well, I think there's a lot. Obviously, as practice goes on, when practices go down, you want them to be guys that step up, whether that's by making a play or saying something at times. Really, I think it's another group that we all have the same message, and that's got to get to the team. And certainly, as coaches, we're not around those guys all the time, and so we want to make sure that we've got guys in this team that understand the importance of doing things right, working hard, going to class, all the stuff that you have to do to be successful just in life. Certainly is going to show up on the football field, and when you've got guys in the locker room, I think that's where it starts. When they're doing things right there, you probably have a pretty good team.
We're joking with you about the depth chart, but I know on Friday you did say you needed to make some decisions in some spots. I know left tackle is one of them. Do you guys have a starter yet there?
We're not yet, and we will by the end of this week. Still, I think getting into the scout mode and letting these guys just do a little bit of Lafayette prep, and taking that playbook and simplifying it. That's one thing too. When you're in a competition, you certainly want to take that playbook, simplify it a little bit. Want to see a couple more guys just get a few more reps in there with the game plan being a little bit simpler, and then go from there.
How much is that left tackle battle? Could that affect some other spots?
Not much. Okay. Yeah, we're pretty solidified on the O-line right now. And offense in particular, you're going to see some new faces out there. Like I talked about before, Killian Butler has been getting more reps in there. Bubba Ogabor right now is with the varsity and working with those guys on the defensive side. DeAndre Pierce, Reed Harrison Ducros is working with those guys. Keikoa Nawahini is working with the varsity group right now. And Chase Hatada, Emmanuel Facili is working in there a little bit as well. And so those are some of the names of the young guys that are still on the bubble of whether we're going to play them or not. But certainly right now they're in the mix, and we'll decide by the end of this week kind of how they progress through a different change in schedule, game plan, and then see where they are next week before we head into the game. And if those guys, we're certainly preparing for them to play. It'll just be a matter of where their need and how much they're able to uphold the standard that we want to have out there when these guys are going a little bit faster game plan reps.
Did you guys put Whitlock on scholarship?
We did.
I saw some chatter about it, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we did. And Blake's a guy that certainly at that position came in here, and we had some depth that we wanted to create, and he was a guy that when he came in here, we hoped after he was here that he could actually play football, because he could run around and he looked good out there just doing the weight room stuff, and you don't know until you see him. And he's pretty instinctual. He's not big enough yet. He still doesn't know everything from the defensive standpoint, but he showed enough that he's going to be a guy playing in that Tanner Vallejo position where he can learn from him, and I think he's a guy that's going to be on the field. I know on special teams, but I think we'll go out there and get some reps on defense. And bottom line, the guys like him. When it all comes down to it, he can play, he can run and do all that, but the team really likes him, and that's a big part of why we rewarded him with the scholarship and why we want him on this team.
And Pope too, right?
Yeah, Pope. Yeah, and Pope's certainly Pope has earned it. He's going to start on special teams. He's going to play for us. He's much improved at wide receiver, but he said a few things when the senior spoke to the team, and he's pretty powerful. And he's a passionate young guy, and certainly has people's ear on this team. And guys were very excited about him earning that opportunity, and he certainly was as well. And we're fired up for Pope. He's a guy we really like as a staff, and he's going to make plays for us, and certainly want to see him do a little bit more at wide receiver as well.
So I think you got one more. Do you plan on? Is there another surprise coming down the pipe, or might be or do you know yet?
I don't know yet. Yeah, I don't know yet. We
Can't
kind of have
give away.
one. We have one to kind of play with right now. So certainly there's guys on this team deserving, and sometimes it's not as easy as just giving it away and giving it to somebody. And you got to look at your future positions and where you're going to recruit, and if you need that number. So sometimes, I learned this when I walked on, and I remember, with the staff, Pokey staff and all that, sometimes good players just don't get that opportunity that are walk-ons. And it has nothing to do with they're not doing well enough or we're not seeing enough ability from them. Just sometimes the numbers don't quite fit, and you've got to, as coaches, be a little bit smart about that. So that remains to be seen, but certainly have deserving guys on this team.
You mentioned, I think, 2 true freshmen on the defensive line. Are there any others that are in the mix there, or are those the 2 you're looking at right now?
Those are the 2 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the 2.
I think at one point, Coach Caldwell said you guys might play up to 4.
We could, yeah, and potentially, because there's a couple guys, Jabari, Coyote, they're going back and forth, so I wouldn't say they're right in the mix right now. And then Tyson Maeva, he's another guy as well at the linebacker position that possibly is going back and forth between scouts and getting some reps in there. And we'll just know more at the end of this week. And we don't have to make that decision right now. They have guys in front of them. That's the thing. We have depth at those positions. It's just a matter of, are these guys going to be capable enough to get in there, play on special teams, and then can we get them some pops, and will they be productive?
You've been a part of the program for a long time. Do you remember handing out or seeing somebody get a scholarship faster than Blake did? I mean, a walk-on. I know Vinny Peretta was pretty quick, but outside of that.
Yeah, Vinny's probably the guy. Vinny got one in spring. And normally at that time, you needed to play. Vinny was the guy that at practice you were like, there's no doubt, this guy deserves it. And Leighton Vander Esch was like that. Leighton was the guy. And here's that position, though, again, we're going to go out, and here's Leighton's story. We were going to recruit a linebacker at that position. We're talking about a 6'3" guy that can run, is going to get bigger and stronger, and we're looking like we have the guy right here. And same thing with Blake. We're talking about recruiting possibly 4 linebackers, and all of a sudden you've got a guy here right now that fits that mold, that you can work with, that you've been around, and the guys like him. And has gotten all the thumbs up from training room to equipment room to strength staff. So, that's really the reason why. We know he can play. Yeah, he's going to do better as he gets more reps, but I think that he's proved enough to us in that position, has some need as well because we've lost some guys there. That he's ready to step in there and fill that role.
How do you feel your defensive backfield's looking? I know we've asked about a lot of the other positions, but how's that group coming along?
They're coming along. Yeah, they're still got some young faces in there. I think we've improved certainly from the beginning of the camp, but we've still got to get much better in the back end. And that's one thing, on the defensive side that we talked about the D line and all that, but certainly in the back end, need to see guys step up and play consistently. And I think we've seen that. We just got to do it now in this game plan mode that we're in. And I thought today they were pretty good. I watched the defense today and some of the service and scout periods looked pretty solid. The defensive backs, they look pretty solid. And so I'll watch the tape tonight, get a better idea. But from first glance, it looked pretty good out there, which is what we hoped. Because we've thrown a lot at them in camp. They've seen a lot, just from the offensive side too. And now they can get into that mode. And I think they were. I heard the horn go off a few times today, which means turnover. So and it was coming from the back end, which is good.
What's the biggest challenge for a position group or a guy that maybe hasn't played a whole lot, going from practice and scrimmaging to playing in a game that counts?
Yeah, I think just trusting your preparation is probably the biggest thing. And you get out there. The one thing that you want to try to build these habits where when your natural instinct takes over, you're not out there and just get geeked out and just start running around and you're not trusting your technique or your preparation and the guys around you. I think the biggest thing is making sure you're able to do that, but two, trust the guys around you to do their job. And if somebody makes a mistake, you keep doing yours. Eventually they'll find, they'll correct it, and not trying to do too much as a young guy or a new guy that gets out there and playing your game. And I certainly think that we've done a really good job of that as coaches, of keeping those guys pretty consistent. That's one thing I've been happy with through camp. I think our guys have been consistent when they played. Now, you get in front of 37,000 people, all right, and they're yelling at you. That's what we're preparing for. Practice is not for the good days, all right? It's for those rough days and tough crowds. And that remains to be seen until we go play.
Injury-wise, you have anybody that won't be available for the first game at this point?
Not yet, not that I know of. Still got a couple guys, that have got a little bit banged up, but we're not ready to play yet. So we're going to wait and see how those guys heal up a little bit.
You said today, I heard you on a radio show talking about that the question mark of the defensive line isn't as big of one as to you guys as it might be on the outside. Why that confidence in the group?
Well, I just think they've accepted that challenge. I think from springtime. Really, let's go back to after the bowl game when all those guys left. They're not stupid. They know the exact question that was going to come out was, how is this D-line going to do anything now with all those guys gone? Kamale was gone and so on. And Coach Caldwell, he's been doing this a while now. He knew the question marks too. I think they've accepted the challenge. And with some of the new faces too, I just think that they've got a little bit of an attitude and a chip on their shoulder. And certainly what I've seen, I think our O-line's done a pretty good job, and I've seen the D-line get in there and penetrate and create problems. So I don't see that. They're certainly got to make plays and go out and show that, but as far as that group and the effort they're giving, I don't see that question mark out there. And I think the guys behind them, the linebackers, they've certainly stepped up and have played their role as well.